Okay, recording this video. It's actually Monday morning, 20th of June 2011 Sydney time. By the time I get this out on the website, it'll be Sunday evening US time. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. I think it's Father's Day in the US this weekend. Not much to say, just want to kind of comment on a couple of things I'm seeing on my chart, so I'll make this video pretty brief. First of all, just looking at the hypothesis chart. The only adjustment I've made to this hypothesis chart was for rollover, because I'm doing this on a continuous contract chart at es.d. Just needed to adjust these trend lines for that adjustment, which happens at rollover. So having said that, this is what I'm still kind of looking for. I thought we'd have got it a couple of days ago, this kind of bounce and pullback move, but we're still trying to find support at the moment in the kind of 1250s, 1260s. Potentially we have seen this in the Thursday-Friday's move, and I'll show you the tick bar charts and what I'm seeing there. But just to note, we're being incredibly news driven at the moment with the news out of Europe, particularly Greece. And everybody's kind of being scared by saying Greece is being compared with Lehman Brothers and blah blah blah, and there's a potential that we could just fall out of bed and the thing just all of a sudden some news event hits or something bad, everybody just loses confidence and the thing just falls through 1250 and goes to 1200 in the matter of a day and a half. I mean, that's potentially out there. Everybody's thought about all of the bad scenarios that could happen now, so it's like everybody's kind of conscious of those things. So just comparing it to Lehman Brothers and saying actually is a bullish kind of comment, if anything, because everybody knows that that's out there and the market has not fallen to 1200 or below. So what that means suggests to me is that there's actually some buyers in the market kind of picking up these lows, and we might actually have a little bit of a rally here. So let's see, but this is what I'm kind of thinking might happen over the next week and a half. In terms of volume patterns, we had declining volume over the last 3 days, so this move here and this kind of support level at 1250, less and less kind of volume. I mean, if the sellers were out there selling, we'd be having higher volumes and we'd be having lower closes, and that's not actually what's happening. So the selling volume is kind of drying out. And if you look at this on a weekly chart, last week's activity was extremely high, well, relatively high volume. It was a high volume churn bar, which is relatively high volume, relatively small range, which shows this kind of stopping volume kind of going in there, and professionals kind of picking it up at the lows. We could go for one of these kind of red, white, and blue type patterns where we've got kind of a sell-off, a couple of white bars kind of selling off, being held by a blue bar, a high volume churn bar, and then have an exhaustion kind of buying bar, a red bar kind of going up. That's potentially a pattern that we might see kind of developing here. We've got the reverse kind of happening here, where you have red, white, and blue with a red bar, blue bar, white bar kind of turning over here. Potentially we could see that kind of testing the highs. I mean, I'm not suggesting we're going to race away to new highs or anything like that. All we're going to see is potentially this kind of pullback move being put in. And on the sine wave charts, just brought this up in a little bit of a different format. So weekly, daily, 135-minute chart with the better sine wave here. And again, I use a multiple of 3 roughly going between my time frames. So on a daily chart, there are 3 135-minute bars up to the daily time frame. Daily times 3 or so is roughly a weekly chart. And I've been saying all along that this move on the downside is going to end when we get or will be held when we get this cyclical cross on the weekly time frame. And you can see the two lines are kind of getting closer. We're heading towards that point. What I'm suggesting is that we'll have a pullback and an end of trend to reach there, but that pattern, that pullback and end of trend, will be made on the 135-minute chart. Trend moves in this time frame are equivalent to cycle moves here, so what I'm looking for is a pullback in this time frame, then to end with an end of trend warning signal on the 135-minute chart. So this is why I'm saying that we're seeing this kind of support coming in here, ready for a pullback into this 80s, 90s. It'll be underneath, probably, most likely 1300 for a nice kind of clean pullback pattern, and then ending with an end of trend when this kind of happens on this weekly time frame. So we've still got a couple of weeks before that kind of comes due, and I'm just wondering if that pullback pattern is kind of going to happen this week and then end in the following week. In terms of the longer term time frames, 40,500 tip bar time frame, so Wednesday, Thursday's activity, we kind of held the support level down at the 1260s, and we kind of raced away in the overnight session. We've kind of hit cyclical support here at 80, and we kind of just drifted back. It was almost like a complex correction going backwards on Friday's activity. Typically what happens is these do actually play out. Once you've got a cyclical level kind of being made and it's not been violated, it does actually tend to kind of run its course. So it looks like we've got some time to make on the downside here. So I'm thinking, kind of early Monday, or maybe Monday's activity is just more basing activity around the 1260s before we start to break above 1280 into this kind of pullback move. If you look at it on the 13,500 tip bar chart, you got all these flush patterns being made. So on Thursday we had end of trend, second cyclical turn after end of trend with another flush signal here with that spike down. We kind of raced away almost too quickly in the overnight session, kind of drifted down. I know it was quadruple witching, and I'm sure that kind of has an impact to what's going on here. The levels are being manipulated effectively by the professionals during an event like that, and we've come into some kind of support here, flush signal, bullish divergence right down here at the lows. But and then on the 4,500 tip bar chart, so you can kind of see this type complex correction. It's like we had the sharp move. The professionals kind of picking it up pretty quickly to get this move kind of going. We race away just a little bit too far, too fast. Kind of complex correction back down. Professionals kind of come back in the 60s, pick it up again. It was kind of a little kind of end of trend to end of trend on this kind of time frame here. This one was a little bit late. It would have been nice if it kind of printed right here at the high just after the open, but then the low we had kind of end of trend here. We've not had any kind of exhaustion volume on the downside yet, but I'm just wondering if we've had enough kind of weak selling at this point just to test down into these lows and start to move away. So that's potentially what I'm saying. But again, all of this is predicated on benign news kind of coming out of Greece. If we have some kind of disaster and all of a sudden we get an announcement that Greece have decided to exit the euro, I mean psychologically that'll have a huge impact on the market, and that 1250, 1255 type support level could easily just give way as there's, I don't know, panic, I suppose, something like that, or realization that the worst fears have been realized. Just a last comment on crude oil. On Friday, crude oil, there was a lot of kind of commentary and almost panic in the market, how crude had slipped through 95 and was just diving and blah 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 blah. Just on my charts, what we ended up on Friday was a Rambo pattern down here. This is an amateur down bar into these lows at 90, 92, 93, and we're coming up to a cyclical turn. We had the highs at 15 marked with a nice end of trend, no demand, and a Rambo pattern right up here. We kind of sold off this way. We had kind of the rush for the doors with exhaustion selling at this point. Professional blue down bars kind of picking it up in the 90s. Couldn't get through this cyclical resistance level here. We've come back down. We've got cyclical support likely to play out in the next few days. And, the amateurs were, driving that activity down, which means potentially that's a false move to new lows, and the amount of selling that we saw, we could easily see this being a bullish divergence or a flush signal being played out in the next couple of days. So again, crude oil kind of starting to possibly kind of find support and test the highs, or head back up into the 100, 105, 110 level would could be supported by some kind of pullback move in the equities as well. So just bear that in mind. A lot of hysteria, I think, in the press on the move to crude oil, but it was a Rambo pattern, and this is how Rambo patterns work out. I mean, just looking on this chart, here's a double Rambo pattern marking a little bit of a high, bang, sell off. Another Rambo pattern here at support. The next one we see is a Rambo pattern up here at the highs. It's got a good track record so far. So anyway, let's see what happens on crude. So hope you're enjoying your weekend and looking forward. I'm not going to tag on my day trades. Incredibly uninteresting day trade charts. I think I had 5 trades, ended up 0 points. I was up 4 and then stupidly kind of re-entered, took a trade, got taken out at my stop, and ended up kind of flat for Friday. It was a good week, but it was a poor day trading Friday. Anyway, enjoy your weekend and looking forward to Monday's activity.